In this narrated PowerPoint, we will be examining pastoral ministry and nonverbal communication. In most cases, communication between individuals involves words that carry less influence than bodily movements and expressions. Nonverbal signals are communicated by each person in any ministry encounter. Now, in this lesson, you will learn positive and negative facial expressions, positive and negative voice qualities, positive and negative body posture, positive and negative gestures and manners, and voice characteristics and their meaning. You may recall this graphic from Pastoral Ministry 401. This graphic displays for us how we communicate, how the total message is communicated. In order for the speaker to communicate his private world so that the hearer can understand the message, the speaker must code his message, and he does so by using words. Words only constitute 7% of the total message communicated. Tone of voice, that communicates 38% of the total message. And then body language or physiology communicates 55% of the message. So it's obvious that nonverbal communication makes up 93% of the total message that you communicate in any situation, at any time, anywhere. You see how important nonverbal communication is. You will recognize this graphic from Pastoral Ministry 401. We used it in that class as well as now. You'll notice a 3-step process to communicating on the slide before you. Step 1 is codifying. Step 2 is sending the message. Step 3 is decodifying. Codifying is the process of using tone of voice, body language, and words to transmit information from inside the sender to the hearer in the external world. Then the message is sent, and decodifying then takes place. The receiver hears and sees the message and figures out its meaning. In the following slides, we will examine the nonverbal cues that a minister needs to observe in order to understand the real message being communicated. Outlined in the following slides are some of these message-carrying signs. I call them nonverbal markers of meaning. You'll be able to observe these in any ministry situation. Both during and after a ministry meeting, try to recall those indicators that we talk about in these slides to help clarify the meaning in the conversation. Remember that you also relay messages with your own voice and body and words. At the time of each visit, be aware of the encountered messages you may be signaling. Assess how you think you were understood. Now let's examine the importance of facial expressions and appearance. You'll notice on the left-hand side of our slide we see the positive characteristics. On the right-hand side, the negative. The positive first. Warm, inviting, smiling. But negative is cold, stiff, and distant. Positive is appropriate dress. Negative, too formal or too casual. Positive, having a good groomed appearance, hair, makeup, etc. And the negative is having a careless appearance. Positive, good, eye contact. Negative, roving or staring eyes or no direct contact. These all affect how you are perceived and how your message is received. Voice quality will be presented here on this slide and then continued on the next one. Voices are as distinctive as our faces. No two are exactly alike. Some of the traits that make our voices unique are seen in this slide and the one to follow. Notice the positive qualities, warm and natural. The negative, dull and monotone. Positive, circumspect tone. Negative, embarrassingly loud or too soft. Positive, reasonable rate of speech. Negative, too fast or clipped. Positive, fluent word use. Negative, stuck for words. Positive, empathetic, understanding, a supportive tone. The negative, artificial, false, insincere. Now we continue voice qualities. Positive, audible responses, such as or aha. Negative is hesitant with many ers, ums, and ahs. Positive, appropriate silent gaps for reflection. Negative, embarrassed silence. Positive, interrupting to clarify or reflect before proceeding. Negative, saying yes, yes, when it should be no. As a fun exercise, listen carefully to the variety of voices you encounter in the next week or two. Try to characterize the voices according to the terminology in these slides. Are some qualities more pleasing to your ear than others? Do you notice similarities between biologically related family members, between spouses? Are there common qualities found in certain professions, for example, television or radio announcers, or even pastors? Work on your own voice quality to make it as pleasing as possible. This will improve your ability to communicate effectively. On this slide, let's address body posture. Here is the positive: leaning toward the person at eye level. Negative: sitting beside the listener, hindering the relationship. Positive: comfortable and relaxed position, making it obvious that time is no problem. Negative: cold, rigid, impersonal, with an attitude, maybe standing in an authoritative position. Positive: being 3 to 4 feet away. Negative: too close or too distant. Now, let's apply this. If you go to, say, a job interview and you have bad posture, you will probably be rated more poorly by the interviewer. People will associate bad posture with weak confidence or boredom or lack of engagement. They might even think you're lazy and unmotivated if you don't sit up straight. To have good posture, your head should be up and your back should be straight. Lean forward if you're seated. To accomplish this, sit down in the front of your chair and lean forward slightly to show you're interested and engaged. This technique will help you in any interview. On this slide, we want to examine gestures and manners. Here are the positive ones. Extended, accepting arms. That means you're open. Here's the negative: arms by the side, in an indifferent manner. The positive: a firm handshake, if appropriate. I put if appropriate because occasionally a handshake that is too firm will hurt the hand of an arthritic patient. A negative is a limp handshake. We call that the dead fish handshake. The positive: keeping head and body turned toward the person to indicate that you're giving them your full attention. The negative is talking to others, ignoring the patient or the person you're visiting, yawning, fidgeting with anything, looking at your watch. Don't just move your hands in gesturing. Great speakers move around. They point at slides. They don't keep their distance from the people. They are animated. Keeping your hands in your pockets when speaking or having a conversation will make you seem insincere and closed off. In contrast, if you take your hands out of your pockets and keep your palms up, you will demonstrate that you are likable and believable. Now, on the concluding 2 slides, we will look at voice characteristics and their meaning. Here's a characteristic: a monotone, and that means that you are bored. Notice this characteristic: slow speed, low pitch. The meaning is depression. Notice this characteristic: high-pitched, emphatic speed. That means that you're enthusiastic. Characteristic: ascending tone. Its meaning is astonishment. One's tone of voice and the tempo of your speaking often indicate sincerity or lack of sincerity behind the words you speak. Become alert to these factors in your visits and conversations. Now let's conclude voice characteristics and their meaning. Here's the characteristic: terse speech and loud tone. That means you're angry. High-pitched, drawn-out speech. That means disbelief. And short, guttural sounds mean impatience. Nonverbal communication plays an important role in how we convey meaning and information to others, as well as how we interpret the actions of those around us. What a person actually says, along with his or her expressions, appearance, and tone of voice, might tell you a great deal about what that person is really trying to say.